Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, coming at you live to talk about episode 12 of the anime series Princess Principal. For all intents and purposes, the season finale. And as finales goes, this was pretty exciting, pretty riveting, although I will say the actual culmination of it felt like it just got all wrapped up really quickly. A bit too quickly, even. You know, not all of the outlying characters were dealt with. There were still things left wide open. And I guess arguably you could say that that's, room enough, wiggle room enough for a continuation series, a second season or something like that, somewhere down the line. I haven't heard anything about that as of the time of this recording, having just watched episode 12 before hitting record. But, I just felt like everything cascaded and ramped up, and then suddenly it was like, everything's done, and suddenly the end credits are rolling, and we get that little postscript episode, that epilogue episode, or sequence rather, and it felt really like everything just culminated so quickly, almost to the point of a lack of satisfaction to a degree, but everything that built up to it through the course of the episode, from Ange realizing, at least it was my estimation that she was realizing Princess had left those bits and bobs behind to allow Ange to chase after her. Like maybe Princess wasn't so self-assured as she pretended she was, and before she got off the airship, leaving Ange behind, she left those little bits and bobs there, perhaps, maybe. And it was kind of along the lines of saying, well, I'm not too sure, I'm not too positive what I want to do is going to work out, pretending to be you, pretending to be me, and everything like that. So just in case, come get me. If things go sour, come get me. You got a parachute, you can jump off this airship and everything. And Ange lights the fire in the cabin, the storage, compartment she's in, and gets out of there and makes her escape. And when she says "baka," stupid, that's what made me assume, because they showed like there's a note written and it's signed, Ange or whatever, or to her. It's pointedly to her. And I didn't bother pausing the scene to actually try to read it or anything. I don't know if it was even legible. But, it just, the impression I had was this was Princess's way of saying, well, I'm sorry for locking you away, and just in case, come get me, If not, it was the other girls, because, of course, we see once Ange is taking this very personally trying to track down Princess and save her life and everything, which is kind of like the last thing a spy should be doing, and it's kind of the thing that explodes back in her face, in a sense, that when she approaches the guy and she's trying to find out where Zelda took Princess and where Princess is and what's going to be happening. She's got the gun in the guy's face, and then Dorothy, as I suspected, she shows up at that last minute, and then Beatrice as well, and it turns out they were waiting all along for Ange. So that made me wonder, well, maybe it was them who set that stuff up so Ange could get out of there in case anything went amiss. I'm not entirely sure, but in any case, I loved the fact that Beatrice sort of, she's all jumping around and scared. Oh, we got to get going. We got to go save Princess. We don't know what's going to happen. And she's the one who lets slip that she and Dorothy were waiting for Ange all along. They actually were keeping an eye on Princess, and Dorothy's trying to pass off this lie like, oh, that wasn't part of our mission. But you know what? Because we are stalwart, best of friends, we're going to go ahead and aid you. But that was what they were there for in the entirety anyway. I thought that was hilarious, because Ange is always the one getting the leg up, lying and twisting the truth. Dorothy got her back in that moment, and it was all for the cause of chasing down Princess. Now, I find this absolutely twisted and conniving in a sense, that Zelda, as a representative of the militaristic arm of the Commonwealth and all the infighting that's potentially going on there, they not only want to assassinate the queen, but they want to make it look like Princess was the one responsible. So there will be a complete revenge, as she puts it, revolution, and it will sour the entirety of what Ange has been all about since she was the original princess. All of those things that Princess herself has aspired to be in having taken up that role, in trying to create a peaceful environment and equality monetarily and societally and all these things, and not wanting to let this sort of monarchy overrule all, as it has been, and whatever like that, and the rich and the most wealthiest be the ones to have and claim utmost power. She wants to level that playing field, and here they want to make her out to be sort of the criminal, the bandit, the one behind killing her own family. And she reveals in that moment where, like, you know, she's tried to make away with the key that's going to have this roof cave in on everybody, and Zelda shoots her in the leg after tying her to like a pole in the room and whatever. You know, she starts to reveal, and I don't even know if they could make sense of it necessarily. Zelda might be able to piece it together, but especially with the soldiers that were surrounding Princess and trying to hear her out after having this nice little tea time with her. You know, the chief soldier who's Ange, I think they said his name was, who's got the key, he very much wants to hear what she's talking about, because she's starting to let slip that she isn't the real princess, but that she took on her role after having, you know, met her so many years ago, met this friend whom she lost, and she's tried to live up to all of those ideals and those morals and all of those principles, those princess principles that, you know, Ange had first debuted to her when they first swapped places back when they were children and everything. And I just thought that was captivating, that, like, you know, here she is revealing this, and only we, the viewer, and maybe Zelda, are even 100% perceptive on what she's even talking about, you know. But even without that awareness, here is this soldier Ingwe, like, this is who we need. If we had known this all along, we had a representative who believed in this and was going to dismantle the hierarchy of the monarchy, and you know, she would be the last queen, and she would abolish all of those things that were keeping things so stringently placed, with the wealthy being on top of the unwealthy and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was very much impressing upon him that maybe we don't need to create an assassination scenario. Maybe we need only to wait, bide our time, and get this princess in place as the queen, and then we can do this peaceably. And for it, he got himself shot by Zelda, that bitch. And not only, you know, does she shoot Princess, but she kills this guy. And I loved that Ange was able to get in there at the last second, and she was very much focused upon getting Princess out of there. She was bleeding out, and Chise, for her part, she was able to help them get into this giant, you know, auditorium or whatever it was, this prayer facility, that kind of thing, where this was all going to be conducted, and the roof was going to come caving in. She had to request, Chise had to request, you know, leaving her post in a sense, but for a greater good, for a greater purpose. And it's insane. It was great. I loved being able to see that. And so, I mean, what else is there to say other than, as I say, the ending? It just felt like it all wrapped up a little too quickly. You had, you know, Zelda getting away. You had the anti-Commonwealth, you know, the people of the monarchy, sort of fine and saying, like, well, we could still probably achieve something out of this. Whatever that means. I don't know exactly what that's going to amount to. But again, setting up the potential for a second season. And I guess we have but to wait to see. They're all sort of recuperating, having some R&R, you know, beachside and everything like that. But they're still kind of sort of on point with running missions. They're keeping an eye on people. You know, this woman looks like she's in the military. Well, let's go scope her out and see what's going on. And then they have orders for their next penultimate job or whatever. I guess we see Elle comes back and gets the militaristic guy out of the way. And he's back in the leadership role of their HQ. So I guess, in a sense, we're left to believe that the missions will continue, and they could very much easily pick up with a second season in that frame of reference. I don't really know. You know, I'll be anticipating hearing a second season coming down the pike at some point. I will probably excitedly want to pick it up and see where the story goes beyond this point. Because I was just a little dissatisfied by the end with how quickly everything wrapped up, that they didn't really quell Zelda in any sense. You know, she escaped, and so did the other enemy forces that were entangled in all of this. And they, you know, all they really showed for it in the end was staving off the assassination attempt on the queen and saving Princess's life, and really saving all their own lives as well, you know, their whole unit. But I don't know if that was enough to really satisfy me in the end, with everything that had built up to that point, who knows? But it'll be interesting to see where this picks up again if we get a second season. And so the finale, it was enjoyable. I mean, I'm not disparaging it in any sense of the imagination. It was very exciting, very palpable. There was a lot of tension and excitement and fear and worry. Princess might die and who of these characters might get taken out. But in the end, it was like all's well that ends well. And it felt like it was a 1-2 punch that came a little too quickly. And very much left, again, the door wide open for a second season. So I can only hope we're going to hear sometime soon that we'll get a second season, because there's probably a whole hell of a lot more stories they can tell. There's so many missions, they skipped over mission numbers and things like that. A lot that we did not see, that was omitted. And I didn't know necessarily if that was for narrative purposes or what, like the beginning of the series. We're at a later mission where they've all been together for a while, but then we go through the history of them coming together. And just there were so many missions that were omitted, and I would like to see what the significance of those were. And I would also like to see what comes after this point where we leave it by the end. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 12, the finale of season 1 of Princess Principal, if you've seen it as well. What you thought of it, if you enjoyed it, if you had any of those similar qualms that I did, that it seemed to wrap up a little too quickly and such like that. And yeah, otherwise, let the waiting begin for a hopeful second season at some point. That'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.